Today on What Went Wrong, we talk about how to get started on a 10-film epic. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and I made over 40 feature films. And one of my crowning achievements, whether it was wound up being what I had dreamed and imagined it to be or not, was the Innocence Saga. 10 feature films shot in 1 year. And it's still one hell of an accomplishment. Especially considering what we had, what we didn't have. We did, I think, a pretty damn good job. Now, I can look back and see different films, like I think 2 really failed a lot, but I think 3, 4, and 5 is where it really started to take off, and that's where by 5 we had a lot of people caught in it, and
and then 6 it just goes downhill until 10 it just comes back. There's a little 8 kind of this, and then 10 just skyrockets.
Well, gee, I wonder what the common denominator there is.
It was Scott. Scott's a common denominator. He was. Sorry, do I need to stop gesturing?
It took me a minute to go because I was agreeing with you to a point, and then I went, I see where he's going with this. Yeah, okay.
I mean, the first.
I forgot who we had the bar here.
Moving, he's talking about
Matt
himself.
Matt Hasso.
Yeah.
I'm the best looking monk all the time. No. I edited myself. Aren't you proud of me?
Yep, I'm proud of you.
Now, we have recently gone back and started recompiling everything. Now, for me, one of the main issues with the entire Innocence Saga is I relied too heavily on the satellite films. There were a lot of satellite films that told a lot of the backstory. Right. And I omitted them from the saga. So when people were just watching 1 through 10, there was a lot of people were lost in a lot of details. And we've gone back and remade it into that. And I had just finished season 1. And I was showing my class some of the footage, and I think it was the remake, the re-edited version of your first introduction fight.
Okay.
Where we introduced the killers for the first time. And there wasn't a whole lot of editing done. There was a little bit, but not a lot. Most of that was sound design.
Yeah.
I went back and did a lot more sound design, and instead of using the whooshes, there were actual khaki, flaps.
The clothes.
And that added a lot, I think. But as I was showing them the first episode, and in the first episode, Diane's gone.
She's there, and then she's gone.
And one of my students, after I showed it to them, he was like, "Man, she was so dope!" And a discussion happened.
I agree with that student very much so.
A discussion started about how much how great our chemistry was as those two partners.
Hey, it's us.
And I had always had in the back of my head, after the Innocence Saga, I got rid of her too soon. I should have developed that relationship and gotten rid of her in 2 or something like that. She had to go. She had to go.
She had to go.
Well, I think if it was like a series episodic,
she would have been the whole
the first season. The end of the first season, she dies. Yeah.
The first season cliffhanger would have been where she went. Yeah. So and again, if we ever did it on a big budget, that's the way. That's the way, because as I rewrote it over the years, we go after Donovan for the full first season, and it's the end of the first season where she gets killed. So
but that's actually a compliment, though, because you're only talking about you get to know her in 2 or 3 scenes before that happened. Maybe 4, I guess,
you're hot,
right?
So we don't want to see you leave.
Anyway,
so,
moving on.
So we were able to bring her back in 8 as the doppelganger, which was always supposed to be the way it was.
Right.
And then we eventually did put you 2 together in 10. And that was really, ways of...
that was part of the reshoots.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was part of the reshoots. Because originally, I think Wes was originally Walter Baker. And there was a whole thing where he had actually shot in some scenes that he was going to play with Isabella Montoya. And then we just went a different road with that. We shot the ending climax, I think, 3 or 4 times.
I was there because there was, not to be weird, but there was like a completely different 10 that I was involved in. Because I remember one day, why are we reshooting this scene with Ryan, doesn't he have? I'm like, oh no, all of that is gone. This is a different movie now. Okay, yeah, because it was like a different actress we shot all of that stuff with. So yeah, I remember that.
Ann and I were thinking about going on a date after this is all over.
What?
Precinct have a problem with that?
If we get out of this, you can lick whipped cream off Diane's ass on the mayor's desk for all I care.
See? How's Tuesday sound? I'll bring the whipped cream, you call the mayor.
I think it starts off very fun. I think it, there weren't, I don't want to say too many things that went wrong on the first one, but there were some things that were hiccups. One being the Donovan office, I think was a big one where we had this big dream of the window.
Yeah.
And when we get into post, we didn't wind up having the money for After Effects and doing all the effects that we wanted, so that really hampered it. Plus, being on DVD made the green screen very difficult. Now, and we kind of did that today, is the way that I would have shot it back then had I had all the gear that we have now.
Yeah.
The little action cam, or the very small camera, should have gone in the green screen wall, or the green wall, pointing out. That way I could have gotten the video on a very wide angle lens. I could have gotten that video, flipped it, and put it in as the reflection in the glass. And that would have saved that scene. But again, the lighting was uneven, so sometimes it wouldn't fully green screen. So that had a lot of issues with it. No, I will say one of the things that we didn't go wrong was Jade.
You and I are best friends forever.
Oh my gosh.
And I, to this day, Brad came to me after we shot that big finale, and you were there, I think.
Oh, yes, I was, yes.
And he said, Brett, in the 10, 20 years you've been working on this, did you ever see this as the climax to this film? Nope, but I love it.
When were we talking about that?
We were talking about that last night.
Because when I read the script originally, now granted, we only got pieces of the script. So I had only had that piece of the script specifically because I was supposed to be Sarah. So when I was Sarah and I was getting Sarah's sides, that was the only reason I even had anything of that scene before it was shot. And I was so excited because I was like, I don't know who's playing Jax, but Jax is like my favorite character. He's my favorite character automatically. And then to see Jade pull it off was like,
yes. The moment to this day, and people are still talking. I just talked to somebody last week about that moment Jade leans in when Carolyn turns down.
I don't want to do this.
I do.
Jeff to this day is like, when he saw it, he was like, kill him now. It's just pure evil, and it's just this great moment. But let's talk about what went wrong. What jumps in your heads as things that you would like to do differently, that should have been done differently?
I mean, Joey should have just been everywhere. No, I think in that particular movie, I think it's definitely the most solid of the saga. I think it's, it was the beginning. Most of that was shot when the energy was high. So I think there was a lot in there. I don't know. It's kind of hard in... I think there's a level sometimes when I watch a film like that, or a film, even some Hollywood films, where I go, there's something there, but they needed, more money, or more time, or just even a... better acting talent for some roles. I think about something like The Watchmen, where it was made before the MCU, where the comic movies were billion-dollar films almost every single time, unless they suck like the DC ones. But they didn't give them the money to have across-the-board great actors. So I think that there's, we all do it. You have the people you have that are available, and you go for it. And then hopefully it works, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that there was some of the roles out there that I was like, man, they just had a little more oomph to their performance, or a little more there. I think that would have probably kind of helped some of that. But I don't know what else you got, because I can just sit here and go on the list. No,
For me, this was the first film that I think I ever even did. And so I was still really new to it. And like I said, I didn't even know that you were playing Mike until we sat down across from each other at the desk at the police station to do the first thing that we filmed. And then finding that rhythm and the relationship that they had, the buddy love that they had. And I think the thing that I remember the most that used to aggravate me was in the scene where Diana might go to Smokey's. And they're sitting there, and Diana's supposed to be a seasoned cop or whatever. And Smokey shoots himself. And trying to react to that was like, well, she's a seasoned cop, so like she's still gonna be upset, but she's not gonna be completely torn apart, right? And so I remember Josh would rib me about that quite a bit, about my reaction to Smokey shooting himself. But so things like that for me, because it was so new still, or I do remember, so the sound looping that was going on in that particular scene used to irritate the heck out of me, because you could hear me laughing at whatever. Oh, do you remember yesterday? And Diane starts laughing. And like, I stopped laughing physically, but you could still hear the
anything that happened yesterday.
what was that? But in the re-edit, whenever we were watching it, and I was showing it to Layne, my daughter, and we're sitting there watching it.
And anything that happened yesterday.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that was a really good edit. Like, I love it because it finally took, like, that's been in my brain for over 10 years, that little, and I'm like, oh, I hate that that's there. But that,
I know exactly what you mean, because there are moments where I'll watch it, and when I'm watching it, sitting down and just watching an old film, and I know that moment's coming up, and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I could have changed this a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what I think and that's why it's so important to not neglect the importance of the little things, just whether it's a or whether it's a ruffle. Yeah. Little things like that are so impactful, and the majority, I'd say 80% of the re-edits of the Innocence Saga that make it so much better are the little moments, pulling just a few frames here and there, readjusting some audio, just making these little changes.
Yeah.
I'll jump over into your neck of the woods a little bit, the fighting. Mm-hmm. I think the fight were pretty good in Innocent Killers, because in the big introduction fight, you brought in some of your guys, so they were ready and prepared. And so it really wasn't until later where we were screaming the bottom of the barrel.
You're just like, can you just swing a punch, please, please, just swing a punch. Yeah, no, and I think again, some of it's the energy that you get when you're first starting, because every project I've ever been involved in, that first couple weeks or couple months of production is like, mm-hmm. And then once that kind of dies down, you're like, oh, come on, let's just get going. And you're doing 10, so that's even more of like, we've got to power through this. But I think that the fights itself, it always helps when somebody's knows how to actually do it, and it doesn't have to be you're an expert martial artist. Mm-hmm. Just has to understand what it is to be a stunt person or to be a fighter. And if you're not, then take the time to learn and practice. And part of the stuff, I can remember we were doing that scene, we're doing the scenes of the different killers doing their different things and trying to work with everybody. And I think there was a big break, and Scott and I had been practicing our big fight for the final. And I was like, hey, you want to see it? And you're like, right now? I'm like, yeah, we've been practicing it for the past 2 weeks. And we just, like, literally in the middle of the set, where there's a little bit of area, we're like, did the fight, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's good, that's good. And but I think that's what happens with a lot of action. And I think what I learned personally on that project, I'd done it a little bit before, but definitely on that too, is trying to use the person's abilities and do your best with the things they can do. But sometimes you just have to, like, man, I know you don't know how to throw this punch, but I need you to just kind of do this. And that it's difficult because you can be the best actor, actress in the world, but if you have no coordination, you cannot fake it. And at this level, we don't have stuntmen. Yeah. And or we could, it would just be very difficult. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times with some of that action stuff is it's, you got to get down and dirty, and if you know how to do it, cool. What are you?
It's like holding the guns is one of the things that made me think when you were talking about the action and all that. So holding the gun, and it's like, oh, today you're gonna run and shoot a gun at somebody. Like at the same time? Like, yeah, at the same time. Oh, okay. But then I remember watching the girl who was with the first set of Innocent Killers that comes into the police station, and it was the first time she had ever shot, and she said that like she was concerned about shooting the gun because she'd never shot a gun before, and you can physically see her like scared of the gun while she's supposed to be this killer coming in to kill everybody. And so those kind of things, like at the bottom of your resume for movies, you're supposed to have like that special skills area. Like, I can shoot a gun, I can ride a horse, I can,
50% of that is a lie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah,
agents will tell you.
I did that once. Yeah, I did that once. I shot a gun once.
I took martial arts when I was 8.
When I was in kindergarten. Oh, okay.
You're 30. Yeah. How long ago was that? Did you keep it up? No. Don't put it on your resume.
Now, when it comes to fights, and this is an area where you were too good for what you did.
Yes.
And this was this falls on me. This is nothing against you, but this falls on me in terms of becoming too comfortable and too reliant on you. The Innocence Saga was, it was conceived of, written by, and planned out of my John Woo days. So there was supposed to be a lot of gun fu in this. And after the Innocent Killers, with all the fights that you did were so great, and I was able to just step back and let you, Matt, you got 5, 6, 7 guys, you're doing this, you got to get from here to there, go. And I could go do my shit, and when I came back, everything was perfect and it looked awesome. Unfortunately, however, that made me lazy because I did not stick to the gun fu that the Innocence Saga was really supposed to do, and so much martial arts came into the rest of the saga. Now there was a moment where
talk about 3, the first edit of 3.
Yeah.
Weren't you supposed to be on set whenever Sally and I have our gunfight?
No.
Because I remember,
and that was one of the things that I let me. Yeah. And I was about to get to that was that and because I started choreographing the fight, and I was back to my John Woo days. I was having you guys flip and roll and come up and have standoffs. And Columbo says, "Where's Matt? Why can't he do this?"
That's why I remember, like I heard somebody say, "Where's Matt?" I thought he was going to be here doing whatever. That's probably why I thought that. Yeah. And
so I took that as all right, well, I guess maybe I need to back away from this and put this more in Matt's hands. So a little bit of that, which today I would have bitch, shut up. And I would have continued on.
Right.
And but that one moment started chipping that away, and then combined with it's just easier to hand it over to you. It became a martial arts thing, and there wasn't as much gunplay as I wanted there to be. But that's definitely not on you. It's just
and I think too is like martial arts is cool and the gun fu is fun, but some of the stuff, because I can remember one day, like it was I don't want to name the actors, but they were doing this scene, and you and I both were like, it'd be really cool is if you guys did this, and we both like did the John Woo jump up on the table and we look at them and they're like, no. Like, all right, well then let's do this instead, because there's a difference to doing that kind of stuff and it's a physicality, and then also just willing to get down there and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's also a different type of acting, especially if it's not muscle memory. Like for you, you've been doing it for 30 years. That's just muscle memory. So
36. At the time, 30 years, 30. I don't know. What's math?
do we count from when
Yeah, we
back?
do.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so for somebody who doesn't have that muscle memory and
Yeah.
isn't used to doing those things, then it becomes a different form of acting. It becomes, okay, I'm going to act like I have the confidence, like I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to do this and look like I know what I'm doing. And that becomes a whole other.
But I think on the schedule, a lot of the times it was, you'd come by, let's do this, and it's like, you don't have time.
Yeah.
The timing was a
Timing on action, I don't think people understand. Timing on action is. In Backlash, we have like a 1 minute fight
It's a
scene.
45-second fight scene, and it took us 4 hours to film
It took us all day, pretty much, to film that.
Yeah.
To get it right. And it does come down to, do you want it right, or do you just want it done?
Well, because and not again,
it
not
takes
knocking
forever. No.
the Innocence Saga, but
yeah.
But no, yeah.
also because it wasn't a martial arts thing, you weren't shooting it like a martial arts movie.
Yeah.
You're shooting like a gung fu or an acting scene. And when we did Backlash, it's like, no, we've got to break all this crap up. One, so we're not sweaty at the beginning of the next take, but two, like to get the angles right. So it was
So many-
painstakingly
if
long.
you compare it to the Innocence Saga fights, if you go back to the ballerina and that fight with you and Tara at the end,
Yeah.
that was shot the way it was supposed to be. That was shot as a martial arts fight.
Yeah.
We took in the
let's do this.
I was even watching it as like there's a blood coming from your lip. I'm like,
Yeah.
we took the time to say, okay, we're taking you up to this point.
Yeah.
Now we can put the blood on his mouth in this fight.
Now, if we hadn't shot that in a microwave, though,
What was the one that you were talking about, all the chalk, because they use a lot of chalk?
it's all the Asian films.
Well, I
a lot of
know,
them.
but there was a movie that you were wanting to do that with, and we were just like,
It was Backlash.
There's no way.
It was Backlash
Yeah, there's
because I was
no
like,
way.
we should
That's-
put the chalk.
yeah, that's
like,
great. That's a great thought. Let's
That's
not.
30 to 45 minutes
Yeah.
between takes.
The continuity on that just blew my mind as the producer, just like, no, we're not.
But there was even stuff in that movie where, like, there was a scene where my character's supposed to get cut across the chest, and it was just like, nah, forget it. Let's just keep going. Like, I don't want to have to take the shirt off because I actually got the exact same shirt and did the cut,
Yeah.
and then just like, there's just no time to do this.
In Sierra Rabbit 5, Kazu wanted to do, was it the Faces of
Oh,
Death?
yes.
Where he
Yes.
fights the
Yes,
rabbit,
yes.
and the rabbit's got the claw, and he does that infamous Bruce Lee scene, and
Yeah.
he does that, and he slashes, and we start off with it, but it was, again, summer, hot, sweaty. Within the next take, it's washed away.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can't keep sitting there putting blood on his
Right.
chest.
And people just don't know. Like, if you don't have any experience with it, you don't know. I didn't know before we tried to film that. And he's like, yeah, I want to take my time. I want to make sure that everything's exactly right and, whatever.
Well, I had just come off.
And it was just them setting up the lights. Just setting up the lights. And he's like, come on. Like, can we get this done? I'm like, wait. You want this done right. You want to make sure that whatever. Like, you got to take the time to
Because
do
it was in the
it.
dark.
Yeah.
It was like in a dark room. So it's like every different angle, you're moving lights. And I'm like, can we just light the whole room? And no, we can't do that. We have too much time. But yeah, it was doing it right because the one of my favorite fight scenes of all time is Donnie Yen versus Colin Cho in Flashpoint. And I watched the commentary. I don't know if it was before we did Backlash or after it. And they shot that fight scene. It's like a 7-8 minute fight scene, but they shot it. It took them 14 days to shoot it. And I was like, wow, that's a long time. That's pretty good. And they're like, no, they didn't do it in a row because they would get so sore. So they would shoot a day of fighting, and then they would go shoot the rest of the movie. And then once they had healed, because it's China, they don't have to do.
Yeah.
Once they had healed, like 4 or 5 days later, they would go back and shoot another day, and then get all beat up. And then so throughout the filming of the entire movie, they would go back like once a week throughout the production and film bits and pieces and bits and pieces. That'd be so awesome. But that's not ever going to happen.
Well, in that light, we'll wrap this up a little bit with a question that I'll pose to y'all. And that being, we understand, even then we understood the sacrifices we were making, that, okay, we're not going to be able to accomplish this because we don't have the time, we don't have the money to do this. but and then you get the naysayers on the reviews and everything. Oh, this piece of crap, blah blah. Yeah, we didn't reach that standard that people are familiar with in there. But I think I made it clear over the years. My attitude and my viewpoint on this is that we were never going to be Hollywood, and it was it could have been better if maybe we saved a lot more money and had time, but we would have been able to make one of them. So to me, it was getting the story told and making that sacrifice of in a way quality to get the story told. Right. Is it worth it? The Innocence Saga would never get made. It just wouldn't, especially in today's today's environment.
Not as a series of films.
Right.
Maybe a show, but not as, especially with streaming.
Yeah.
But no, not as a series of movies.
Yeah. But again, let's look back at that time period.
Yeah,
where
that wasn't a thing.
If Amazon Prime had been out then, I think we would have done it as a series.
Yeah.
Because I fully, even back then, I may have even said this would make a great series. I think we still would have had to do it in 1 or 2 years because of the actors and the people flip-flopping. What do you say to those people that are saying, well, you should have saved up, or why even bother making it if it's not going to be perfect? What would you say to that?
I call those people pre-production whores. No, I feel like, and I'll be very overly transparent, as I feel like you have to decide what you're in it for. And if what you're in it for is perfection of a project, the film you want to make, you're never going to make that film. If you're in it because I want to do this, and I think for me, the best thing was when I was doing all the short end stuff, because I got to do all these little short films and play with, like, I like this, I don't like this, like, this doesn't work, this works, and learned to, like, okay, now I'm ready to do a bigger film. I did a bigger film, and it was whatever. It was just learning along the way. And I think when you get trapped in this, I'm going to save money, I want to make sure this is perfect, I've got to make sure this is all done. Well, then by the time, if somehow you get the money and the time, that movie's going to suck so bad because you've never shot anything. So I think that's where you have to just do something. I think my big thing I like to tell people, like, oh, I want to make a movie. I'm like, go write a 5-page story of 2 people drinking a cup of coffee. Go shoot it and go edit it. Because if you can't do that, you can't do anything. And I think that's what happens is, you want to make the movies you want to make. And you have a blast and have fun making them. Make those movies. Make them, because that's what you want to do. I did Backlash and looked at Backlash and Crosshairs and went, neither one of these movies is better than the other. I still like Crosshairs better because that's the kind of movie I want to make, but I don't have that look. Everyone wants to be funny. But I think I just got to the point where it was like, I don't know if this is going to get better, and I don't want to do it anymore. Like, things changed for me personally. I got married, became more of a, more dad than I was before. Dad intensified, I don't know. But I think that you make the decisions of what you want these projects to be and just do them. And I think that a lot of people get out of, I want to be a Hollywood movie. Well, you're not going to do that unless you're in Hollywood. The day of Robert Rodriguez or Kevin Smith is gone. It's just gone. The best you can hope for is that somehow your 8-year-old child opening presents is suddenly a magical and he gets his own toy line. Like that, because everybody, I can start my own YouTube channel and make movies off my phone, and now I'm out there. And I think that the day has passed, but just enjoy what you love and do it. But I think some people get into this point of, I want to poo-poo on everybody. Like, just go do your thing. Go do something. If you have the big project you want to do little things until you get there. And I think that's kind of I guess that's my whole thing. It's like, I got to the point where it wasn't fun for me anymore. I don't want to do it anymore, so I stopped. But if you're out there, filmmakers, and you're having fun, keep making films. Have fun. If you're making films and you're having fun, keep doing it. And if people don't like it, keep doing it. I mean, really, honestly, it's like that's as much as there's been times I know we've disagreed on projects or had our things, but like, you decide you're gonna make a movie, you make it, and it's done, and nobody can take that from you. And there's so much that could be said for that. I have unfortunately done other projects and they never got completed because I watched them and went, this sucks, I'm not going to finish this. But yeah, that's my tirade. What about you?
On a similar note, like Brett's discussed that before too, and some of these talking about why are you in it, and make sure that you're doing something to learn, because if somebody ends up giving you money and you haven't done any of those things, then you don't know what you're doing, right? So for me, it was figuring that out. Why am I doing? I'm not going to Hollywood. That's not like my dream. I don't want to be an actress. I just was enjoying what was going on. I enjoyed the process of it. I enjoyed everything so much that I became obsessed. So like when we're talking about 1940s and the period pieces and how irritating it is that nobody else would take it seriously. So, me buying the 1940s patterns and the fabric that those would have been made out of, and having the dresses made for that thing, and making sure that makeup was right, and making sure that down to my nails, that they were right, and whatever. That was what was important to me. It was because I was enjoying the process of it. And so enjoying the process, whether they're magic cubicles that are bulletproof in the police station or whatever.
Police station, it could be a thing.
It was funny to me when people would start pointing it out, because I was having so much fun doing it that it didn't even ever occur to me. And I was like, oh wait, yeah, I guess, yeah, sure, why not? And then of course the further you get along in the Innocence Saga, you're like, yeah, whatever. Yep, that's what's going on. We just explain it away. Yep. Oh wait, what? They did that? Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure we'll do another one later about later down the road. You guys come back for the final chapter. But
I know there is no final.
There is no final.
No, I was gonna say
even no final chapter.
Jade
talking about
2011.
Yeah.
I don't think the saga's ever truly wrapped.
Yeah.
Really wrapped.
I personally, there's isn't it like 2 or 3 times?
Where Jade wrapped?
Well, no, that we started doing the final and then we had to start again because of something we had to change the location. So there's no.
Yeah.
And
just the final scene alone, we shot 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, like, let's add a little bit to this and just be able to explain the things that got lost, and it's evolved into a little bit, and we haven't really fully gone overboard, I think, with the framing devices. And that's all these new things are just framing devices to be able to say, this is what this meant. And be able to point it out a little bit.
It helps people like me. The timeline challenged. Time travel challenged. Yeah. No. What?